Me excited? Never had it. Never happened before.
Cool. All right. So
I'm
we're
going to turn my
recording.
input down, volume a bit down.
Yeah, let's record. Yep, I got that. Starting the event. Okay, cool. All right. So let's do it this way. Okay, then we can see. Here we go. I guess I'll do it in that view. Alrighty. So, welcome back, everybody, to the Small Fry Games server for another Saturday morning, for me anyway, Saturday night for Ahmed, rulebook run through. So, this is something new we are doing where we are taking a cold look at a rulebook and seeing if we can learn the game right from the rules and seeing if there are gaps or unanswered questions or things that could be smoother or quicker for us to learn. So, today we're going to go through Ahmed's rules for Farmhouse Frenzy, which is a game for 2 to 4. It lasts 15 to 30 minutes. This is for ages 8 plus. Let me zoom that in a little bit so you can see a little better. Yeah, that'll be better. And yeah, let's start out by introducing Ahmed. Tell us about your game. What is it? Who's it for? And where's it going? Are you pitching this? Are you self-publishing? Submitting to contest? Crowdfunding? What is hopefully the fate of this game, and what kind of stage are you in for the process?
Sure. So this was I started this game in May last year, and it went to shortlisted for PAX Australia in October. And it was, I think, my 10th game that I created last year. So last year was the official year that I started going to board game designing. And right now, where the game is at is, I think it's fairly stable. It does have a pretty good core game loop based on player feedback. Um, it's going for, or rather, what it's going towards is that I'm trying to pitch to publishers. I've started pitching to some. 100% rejection rate, obviously. So that's still an ongoing process, but it's been really good. Who is it for? It is, well, what is it? It's a game 2 to 4 players where it's an asymmetric um, sort of area control, but mostly hidden movement and animal noise slash mechanism that you make in the game. So you've got 2 teams. One are the team of foxes who are trying to run around invisibly, eating all the farm animals before escaping to their dens. And then you have the farmers who are trying to catch the foxes, and they've got hidden traps that will activate based on a certain animal noise or animal that gets eaten by the fox. So there are hidden information on both sides. And I guess an easy way to visualize it is battleship with animal noises. That's one way someone has described it. So yeah, that's where it's at. It's mainly gone through a lot of design and development. I think the latest version was at version 50 something. So it's sort of not really getting a lot of playtest right now, but I did recently receive a feedback from a publisher, so I'm gonna look into what possible changes can be done. But then on to the next batch of publishers, and hopefully I'll get some insights into how I can improve the rulebook as well after today's session. So thanks for that, Emily.
All right, so we've got a hidden movement game with animal noises. That sounds like fun. And we are gonna, so let's read this as if we're a publisher, sort of evaluating this game. Is this game gonna be for us? How do we think it's gonna work in terms of production and stuff? Chris, I muted you just to decrease the background noise, but I don't want to mute you so you can't talk. So I'll ask you to mute if you have that button there.
Of course.
And I want to welcome Chris Baki is here on the call. Katie from Next to You Games is on the call. We ran through her game a couple weeks ago, Terrain, although we didn't get to record it because of my flub. And Craig Carpenter is here. Hey, Craig, I just met Craig a couple days ago. So glad to have you on the call too. Yeah, so how this is going to work, I'm going to take kind of a live run through of this rule book from top to bottom and give you sort of my stream of consciousness as I'm reading, if I'm able to figure things out or if I'm left with unanswered questions. I may ask some rhetorical questions aloud as I'm thinking, but if what I really mean is, Ahmed, I don't understand this, I'll say, hey, Ahmed, tell us what you mean by this if I can't figure it out. But let me struggle a little bit. And we can pause after every section or so and get some weigh in from other folks as well. Sound good? All right, let me zoom into this. So I'm going to start off by saying that I love when people have their rule books in Google Docs for a few different reasons. Number one, it's going to save you a lot of time and effort when you're playtesting on the fly, in person, whatever, and you need to make a change. You can just pull it up on your phone. You can make a change. People can comment on it if they have questions. It's a live document, so if you send a link to a publisher and all of a sudden you made a change, you don't have to send them another iteration, another version of that. It just lives there. It's the most up-to-date thing in the cloud. And I know I learned with the first game that I signed, I had the rulebook all laid out and in design. It looked great, and it went through 40 other iterations since then. And instead of me having to open it and make those design changes all the time, it was so much easier just to take it, put it back in the cloud, put it back in Google Docs, so that we could keep working on it until it was just right, then hand it off to a graphic designer so they can do the work. So I'm always encouraging people to use Google Docs. It's also got a lot of features like I love that you've got some hierarchy set up here with the headings. You can jump through to different sections. There's really great ways to insert icons very easily. Just always a good idea to do things in Google Docs. I'm also going to apologize. I'm a little out of breath too. I've been a little sick, so I'll try not to overdo it today. All right, without further ado, let's look at Farmhouse Frenzy. Farmhouse Frenzy, 2 to 4 players, length 15 to 30 minutes, ages 8 plus, a game by Ahmed. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Tell us how to pronounce your last name, Ahmed.
Salahuddin.
Salahuddin. That's what I was going to guess. Okay, Salahuddin. And you got your contact information right up front. Really good. I've seen a lot of rulebooks lately where people don't put their name at the top. It's like, it's your game. Put your name on that top for sure. All right, Farmhouse Frenzy is a game of hide and seek. Hungry foxes sneak around eating animals while farmers try to catch them. All right, components 12 cubes, 3 chickens, yellow, 3 ducks, blue, 3 cows, green, 3 sheep, red. Okay, these are the cubes, so there's 4 of each colors. Got that? Super clear. 2 farmer meeples, 1 drawstring bag, 2 dry erase markers. 1 dry erase board, 27 cards, including a fox tracker, 4 fox dens, fox actions, farmer actions, 4 traps, and 2 references. 16, 20, 24, 25, 26, 27. It's 27. Okay. Oh, and we've got them lettered. Okay. Lovely. I almost wish that we've got like a mix of icons here and like real images. I kind of wish they were all consistently real images, but I think it does the job. I can pretty much picture what these other things are. All right, so let's look at these. So the fox tracker. All right, looks like this. B, fox dens. Looks like that. C, fox actions. Makes sense. So they have a paw print. I love that you've done this, that I can see the back of the card too. That's something I've been pointing out to a lot of people recently is, tell me what the backs look like and the fronts so I can tell the difference. Farmer actions have a little farmer on them and they're blue. 4 traps have traps on them and 2 reference cards. Excellent. A, B, C, D, E, F. That looks good to me so far. Anybody else have comments about the component list? You feel like you could tell what was what when you open the box?
Yeah, no, it looks really solid. Well done.
I think it looks great.
Super. Cool. And I wonder, is this a, Ahmed, are you using Google Drawings for this, or is this something you've exported from your computer?
I use Inkscape, so I just export it out, just copy paste literally. So yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Something that I do a lot, that's nice, so you don't have to open this in a new program to edit it, is I do Google Drawings for everything. So you can literally click into, like if I go to the Upsy Daisy rulebook, all my images are actually, like if I click on the bee, boop, I can literally edit the bee. I can make the bee green if I want, or I can change the size of it or the colors and such. And that lives right, so you can import that right within Google Drive, and then you can edit it right with Google Docs. So it's a way to keep those things nimble as well, so you can modify them as you're editing your rulebook. But it looks great. I agree with everybody. It's easy to find exactly what we need. All right, let's move on. Hey, Daria. Good morning, afternoon, evening. If I don't see you later, good night.
Hello,
We just
everyone.
talked yesterday. So
Hey
we're going
there, yeah.
through Ahmed's game Farmhouse
I
Frenzy, and we just got through sort of the introduction and the components page, which I think you'll agree is lovely and easy to find exactly what we need.
yeah, that's great. I will be watching.
All right. New game setup. Does this mean like right out of the box, like it's a new when the game is new how you set it up, or is it just game is it the same as regular game setup? I'm curious.
Regular game setup.
Regular game setup. Okay. The word new seems strange. Okay, choose your teams. 2 players, 1 farmer, 1 fox. 3 players, 1 farmer, 2 foxes. 4 players, 2 farmers, 2 foxes. Okay, that makes sense. That could even be even more visual if you wanted it to, but I think that's pretty darn clear. Setting up the fox team. Give each fox player, henceforth fox, okay, a set of 4 actions. 1 sneak, 2 run, 2 stalk. Set of 4 action cards. I guess fox actions. Okay, how many fox actions are there? Fox actions, 8 of them. Okay, so each one is a set of 4. Okay, so I don't have to hunt for those cards. Those are just the cards. If there's 1 fox, they get 1 half the deck. If they are 2 foxes, they get 2 all the cards. 1 of each.
Yeah.
Okay, or 2 sneak. Okay, shuffle the 4 dens face down. The dens? Yep, cool. See how I'm always going back to that component page to see what things are, and I know immediately what they are. I didn't have to read, I just looked at it and saw it, which is great. Shuffle the 4 dens face down, then randomly give each fox a random den. Okay, so we have 2 foxes, max 2 foxes. We have 4 dens. Is one of the dens going to get put back in the box? Let's see. The den will show one of the corner squares, e.g. A11 for the bottom left square on the board. Using a dry erase marker, write each fox's den square as the starting den on the shared fox tracker. The fox who will be starting will be fox 1, the other fox will be 2. Never show your den or your fox. Okay, so let me see if I can figure out. I'm a fox. We shuffle up the fox dens. I get one of them. And this says A11, so this would be A11. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so we got coordinates on the map, A11. Okay, so there's my den, if that's my fox card. Read this again. Using a dry erase marker, write each fox's den square as the starting den on the shared fox tracker. The fox who will be starting will be fox 1. Okay, so if I'm starting, so here's my fox tracker. Vixen and cub. I guess that would be 1 and 2. Do I write it on the start space, maybe? Like A11? Let me read that again. Using dry erase, mark each fox den square as the starting den on the shared fox tracker. So it doesn't say starting den, but it says start. So I'm assuming I'm going to write A11 right here. Is that correct, Ammon? Or I'm sorry, not Ammon. Ahmed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just realized it's an old graphic, but yes, that
Okay,
should be where you put it.
cool. It might even be useful if you had like a picture of this card and a hand-drawn like A11 here, and you could circle and just draw a little arrow here, like under that setup step. I feel like it took me, I had to read it like a few times to get what it was, but it's simple. You draw a card, it says A11, you write A11 on the start, right? I think that's the gist of it. Yeah, so I would see if you can make that an image that's just draw this card, put a little circle, this number goes in this spot on that card. Okay, but it was understandable, right? It just took a little longer. Never show your den or your fox tracker to the farmers. Oh, okay. So I might have just written it on the table where everybody could see and then said, oh, that's supposed to be secret, and brought it up. So I might have said that earlier. Okay, so Okay, so the fox trackers are sharing this. The fox players are sharing this fox tracker card. Okay. I would almost say, like, setting up the fox team. Get your set of 4 actions, and then the foxes are also going to share a den tracker, which is going to be secret. Like, sort of introduce that up front. That might help. And then shuffle the 4 dens, put that there. Cool, so I guess that also den card is going to be secret. We're going to write that. Return the dens, like to the box, and keep all 4 dens stacked face down nearby. Oh, okay. Okay, so we're going to return our starting dens, shuffle them up, and put them face down. Cool. Oh, and we've got pictures down here.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, Emily, if you could, yeah, just stay on that text for just a second. Yeah, definitely like the idea of adding a graphic here, but also even during part of this Fox team as like literally step number one, I might say if there are two of you, comma, you're on a team, and then go into detail about what should be shown to each other, what should or should not be public information, what's face up, face down, things like that. Basically, set up from the very beginning the expectations of what you can show, what you can't show. I appreciate the fact that obviously they never showed your den or your fox tracker. That line is bolded, but that comes after you might have done the thing. So if you set it up beginning, step one, it becomes clear what your incentive is, and hopefully that makes that line even that just reinforces the line.
Okay, good point. Fair enough. Thank you.
I agree. Anybody else have comments about that before we move on? Okay, nothing heard. We'll keep moving. Okay, return the dens and keep all 4 dens stacked face down nearby. Okay, so we got a little thing face down nearby. I don't see that here. This is kind of what I'm craving almost for this section. If there is only one fox, using the marker, cross out the 2 rightmost fox health squares on the board as shown below. Okay, and that's going to be up here. 2. Oh, okay. Yeah, and you got the little 1 icon there and the 2 icon there. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I think that's clear. This was a little bit, blah, 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 blah. But so here's an example where like the sentence would have caught me up, but having that image right after there's like, okay, got it. Very good. Anybody have
Right.
questions or comments about setting up the Fox team before we move on to the next section? Alrighty, we'll keep on moving. Setting up the farmer team. And I think probably same format here, what Chris was suggesting, like if you're only one farmer, you're working alone. If you're 2 farmers, you get to share information or whatever that looks like. Farmer setup guide. A, B, C, D, E. Fencing guide. Skip any square that contains a building, water, or forest. Okay, so we're gonna be building fences, I guess? So this might be an opportunity also, like you say, setting up the fox team, and then just like in a sentence be like, you are sneaky foxes. You are going to be working in secret, sometimes together if you're part of a team, to, whatever. I assume we're gonna be eating chickens or ducks or something like that. Without the farmer knowing. Like if you just had that introductory sentence, then I'm like, oh, I know what I'm doing. So here, I'm guessing, you're a farmer or a set of farmers. You are going to be drawing fences around the property to try to contain the foxes. Again, I'm assuming that's what we're going to be doing, or maybe we're containing chickens and ducks, but just saying, hey, you're going to be drawing fences before you start the fencing guide would be good. Okay. This is a little thing, and it's not too bad when there's this many letters, but I always like the letters to sort of start at the top left, like A, B, C, D, E, because they're just easier to read because we read from the top left to the bottom right. So if it's possible to do those in that order, if it makes sense, I always like seeing those. It's just one of those things that saves you 2 seconds as the reader. Alright, use the above image for reference. Give each farmer player, henceforth farmer, a set of 4 action action cards. 4 actions, probably. Okay, cool. Oh, did we say? Yeah, up here I would say return any extra action cards to the box, if that's happening, because I don't see anything else we're doing with the actions, and same with the farmers. That's always like confusing when you're setting up your game and you're like, oh, well, what do I do with these other things? If you just say, take those extra cards, put them back in the box, it's like, okay, I can totally forget about the rest of those action cards. I'm not holding them confused. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. I also wonder when you go listing like exactly which cards are in a set, if you could just use like an A and a B, or like maybe a little boy farmer and a little girl farmer, or like 2 farmer icons that somehow look different, and you could just say take a set of action cards that match. That would just be less verbose, and it would probably be obvious on your cards. Give each farmer a meeple. They each place their meeple on a different square adjacent to the building in square F6. A. F. Okay, I'm going to assume that's 6. I can't see it, but cool. F6. A. And that must be a farmer image. Is that... So you're placing your meeple there? I'm wondering why that it doesn't show a meeple. Yeah, so we see meeple shapes up here, but then I'm seeing a farmer icon here,
Right.
and no meeple shown here. So I might, like, gray out a meeple and then put, like, a solid meeple here, or something like that. So people are going to read your full rules, top to bottom, hopefully, before they play their game, and then they're going to go back to skim to see them again. So if you go here and you're like, oh, a meeple goes here, I would show a meeple going there. Be as plug simple as you can. Okay. On a different square, adjacent to the building in F6, squares that are diagonally positioned are considered adjacent, such as E5 and G7. Excellent. I like that you point out exactly things. Okay, so I can place my meeple anywhere around this barn, building, whatever it is. And we have to do it in 2 different squares. That's clear. Okay, place a different type of animal cube to each of the 4 wheat squares B. What is a wheat square? I wonder. Is that the one with the grass on? Oh, wait, there's something that looks like wheat. Let's see. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Oh, I can't zoom in anymore. I think this is a wheat symbol right here. Is that correct, Ahmed?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think you showed the little wheat. Bloop. Yep. Okay, cool. Oh, and I can see it up here. All right, so each of the 4 wheat squares. So a different animal type. So there's 4 wheat squares on the board. I'm randomly putting 1 color here, 1 color here, 1 color here, 1 color here. That makes sense. I don't see that shown, though. I'm wondering why there's not, like, a square here, a square here, a square here, and then wherever that 4th one is, I think it's down here. It would be nice to show those. Again, like, because when I'm coming back to play it a second time, I want to just look at the thing and go, bloop, 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 bloop. That's where they go, just like the picture. Especially if you're 8+, kids can then open it up and be like, oh, make that look like that. Super easy. Okay. Place the 8 remaining animal cubes into the bag and shake it well. 8 cubes into the bag. Okay. Well, these are cute. So these are cubes. They look like tokens here, but I think they're cubes. I might use instead of this shape that you're using to represent a cube, I might see if you can use this shape as a cube, just so it's extra clear what they are. Same with the farmer, I would use a meeple. And again, like, that's one of the reasons that I like to use Google Drawings, is I could just, like, double click, turn that into a cube, done. Alright. Shuffle the 4 traps. Those are cards, right? 4 traps. Face down. Then randomly select 1. It seems like you use numerals sometimes and then you spell it out sometimes. That would just be consistent. And for, like, skimmability, when you're going back and reading something, your eyes will go and they will see the numeral right away. Select 1 and place it face down to the... This is catching me up. Like, face down to the noise trap? I feel like it should be, like, face down on or next to. I'm not sure what to means. To the noise trap slot on the board. D. Okay, noise trap. That makes sense. Thanks for illustrating it. Keep the other traps face down nearby. You may peek at them at any time. Okay. The farmer may peek at them at any time. Not everybody. Okay, so again, like, back when we're introducing what is the farmer, who is the farmer, what are they doing? They're setting traps, I guess, and building fences. So introducing, like, this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be setting traps for the wolf and fencing them in, I think. Using a dry erase marker and the fencing guide above. Okay, yeah, I would move this down. Cross out 2 squares adjacent to each farm animal on the board. These represent fences. Do not cross out a square if it contains a building, water, or forest. Yeah, I would put this underneath this. Okay, so we've got a sheep cube here, and we get to put it here and here, or we could put it here and here. And we could go diagonal. Okay, I see. Okay, that makes sense to me. Skippity square contains a building, water, or forest. Building, water, or forest. Okay, that must be a forest. That must be, these must all be buildings. This must be water. So we can draw on grass, and we can draw on... Well, we can't draw on wheat because the animals are on the wheat. But I guess later we could probably draw on wheat. So I might, in your examples, include some wheat squares, or say that you can Sometimes like saying what you can't do without saying what you can do. It's nice if you can say both of them. But otherwise, that makes sense to me. Anybody have comments or questions about the farmer setup?
More just a general sort of thing here. What I'm noticing is that you'll use the word, and then I'm missing like the word card or the word tile or the word cube after that. So 4 action cards, 4 action tiles, 4 action whatevers, because I then have to kind of remember what an action is. Um, yeah, shuffle the 4 trap cards face down. But we're getting really nitpicky here. You're doing a great job, Ahmad.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like I always use like the example like draw a monster. Like feels really weird thematically because you don't draw a monster like you open the door and the monster appears, right? Or draw a weapon. Well, actually that one does work because you can draw a weapon, right? But so many times
Yeah.
we say like shuffle the monsters. You're not shuffling the monsters. You're shuffling the monster cards. So like, are you speaking in thematic terms or are you speaking in sort of mechanical terms or technical terms? And I think because you saw as I was reading, I was like, a trap. What's a trap? Oh, that's a card. Oh, an animal. What's that? Oh, that's a cube. And actually, you said animal cube, and that was easier to just boop right away.
Okay.
So yeah, I would
Okay.
second that. I would say use trap cards. I also like that you've used a capital T for traps and a capital. Emily's not awake yet. The other action, A for action, especially those words that can easily get confused with just other prose in your rules. It makes it like it is a formal noun. So I think that's well done. And some people italicize and bold and do, but I think just capital is a great way to do it. And then you've italicized the name of a card, which works too. Sometimes people italicize, sometimes they'll put them in quotes, which is like this is the name of an action card. Sometimes people will use the same treatment for action card and a particular action card, and then I'm getting caught up like, wait, what's a small fences card? I don't see that in the components. But being able to sort of like underneath the action cards, there are these types is a excellent way to do it. Alrighty. Anybody else before we move on to overview? Okay, an overview of how to play. I might just say how to play. Or overview, one of the two. So, object of the game. Foxes and farmers are on 2 separate teams. Again, I might use a numeral or be consistent. Players win or lose as a team. Foxes must eat enough farm animals before escaping to their dens, while farmers must capture foxes enough times. Enough times. I almost want these to be bullet points, like for the foxes to win, they must blah blah blah. For the farmers to win, they must blah blah blah. In 2 things. And enough times, I assume there's going to be a chart or something at the end of the game that I flip to, but there's only 2 possible arrangements, like 1 farmer or 2 farmers, or maybe there's 4 arrangements. So I feel like it could be spelled out right here. Because otherwise you're holding in your mind, okay, I have to remember, I'm going to know eventually how many is enough, but it's nice if you could just know right when you're sitting at the table with your friends, okay, you got to capture the foxes 3 times. Cool, good to go. Let's move on. Round overview. Okay, or turns and rounds. This is a common thing I see people skip over. A round consists of alternating team turns where each player plays once per round. Play continues until a team wins. Okay, so we're going to play multiple rounds. Each round, the foxes get a turn and the farmers get a turn. Is that what we're saying? Each round consists of alternating team turns where each player plays once per round. Each player plays once per round. Okay, I see what you're saying. So, there's going to be multiple rounds in the game. Each round, every player gets 1 turn. Okay, so I'm wondering if it's going to be foxes go and then farmers go, or if it's going to be farmer, fox, fox, farmer, or however that's going to work. We'll see. Each team collectively decides their team members' initial turn order. After the first round, the turn order is fixed. This means that the first fox can't switch their turn order with the second fox, and likewise for the farmers. Okay? Regardless of the number of players, the first fox always starts each round, followed by the first farmer, then the second fox, then the second farmer. I wonder if this could be simplified if you just said you should sit farmer, fox, but I can see how you'd want to share information between foxes and between farmers. But I think this could be shortened up and just say the turn order is as follows, like fox number 1, farmer number 1, fox number 2, farmer number 2, with those second ones in parens, I guess. Unless, in a 2-player game, I get to take 2 turns. I'm not sure. So see all these questions that are coming up? So I think that this could probably be said in 1 or 2 sentences, maybe with some bullet points. Yeah, let's keep reading the rest of this page, and then I'll take a break here. Playing as foxes. Foxes have 2 goals. Each oh, okay. This is what I was expecting with the object of the game. Each fox must eat 3 animals. Enough farm animals. Okay, yeah, I would put this all together. When you eat your 3rd animal, take a random new draw. So is this present tense? Is this on my turn? Is this we are baking a cake, preheat the oven to 375 right now? Or is this what you will be doing? That's what I'm questioning right now. Foxes have 2 goals. Each fox must eat 3 animals. When you eat your 3rd animal, take a random new den. Foxes can never share the same dens. Take a random new den. I might draw the one that I already have. I wonder if that's okay. You may still eat additional animals, but you can't change your den anymore. Okay. 2. Each fox must be at their new dens at the end of a fox's turn. If each fox is at their respective new dens, then the foxes win. So, my job as a fox, as I understand it, is I have a starting den. I have my little fox home. I'm going to venture out. I'm going to gobble up 3 animals, and then I'm going to return home, which may or may not be the same home that I started in. And that is going to, if I'm just one fox, that'll trigger the end of the game. If both of the foxes get home after gobbling down 3 birds or animals, then they're going to win. Is that correct? Okay. I think we could probably say that more of like a 8-year-old is reading this style. Like, you're going to start at home. You're going to go out, try to eat 3 animals, and then get to another home, which you're going to draw randomly, something like that. I also wonder, is there a game mechanical reason why you don't know your ending den from the start? Why that's a surprise? Because I wonder if that would be cleaner to be like, you're going to start here and you're going to end here, so you can be a little bit more like Handyland about it. I'm going from here to here, and on the way I want to eat 3 animals. Is there a reason behind that?
It is just to keep the tension high for the fox because they have the hidden information or hidden movement advantage. So,
Gotcha.
like you highlighted just now, they could potentially get the same den again. So they'd
Okay.
have to backtrack. Yeah.
Okay, so that was one of my questions too. When it says a new den, it almost seems like I can't have the same one. And so we're not, thematically, we're not running to the closest den, we're running to our other favorite den. Okay, cool. Foxes win. See page 4 for details on how to play as a fox. I feel like we're on page 4. What page are we on? Oh, there we go. Page 4. Next one. Okay. I was going to say, are there no page numbers? No, they're on top. Okay. Alright, so I think I have a good deal of the fox. I feel like this up here was kind of like a non-instruction. I mean, this was helpful, but this wasn't enough information, and I had to hold it in my mind until I got here, and then this kind of told me everything I needed to know. Okay, play as farmers. Farmers only have 1 goal. Oh, foxes have 2 goals. Okay. I see, it's kind of like a compound goal. Farmers only have 1 goal. Farmers must capture foxes enough times, which is represented by the collective fox health on the board as shown to the right. Let me just look at this. I think you're going to tell me, but I'm just looking at this. Reduced when trapped or fenced. So if I have 1 fox, I want to reduce it. Is it to this starting space, or is this 1, or is this 0? Is this the end of the game, or is booting me off 1 back from that the end of the game? Reduced when trapped or fenced. Okay, the total health depends on the number of foxes. 1 fox, 4 health. 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, same question. Is that 1 or 0? 2 foxes, 6 health. Okay, so they share health between them. And that's tracked where? On the board, I think? Board? Yep, up there. Okay, so that's the end game trigger, sort of. Where am I? There we are. Farmers immediately win when the last fox health is crossed out. Okay, so 1. So we start with the first 2 crossed off if there's 1, and then we cross them out when you cross it off. Okay, that makes sense. I don't like this, the collective fox health tracker. Like, it seems very gamey. It's like action phases. When you have a game that's this 8+ age range, I feel like you could say that in a much more CJ run sort of way. I don't have an exact.
So for example, foxes share 4 health, or one fox has 4 health. 2 foxes share 6 health.
Yeah, and I might even say like health points or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, or these could be like, yeah, something like that. Yeah, but like the collective fox health just seems very strange to me. Like health points. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, these are all falling under the category of like I can figure out how to play your game from this, but if I can figure it out in 1/3 the time and save 10 seconds, that's going to collectively get your game to the table faster and get me starting to enjoy it faster and being able to go back and skim it and find exactly what's going on. Okay, and this might actually be like you can show the start and then like have them all crossed off and be like farmers win exclamation point if this happens. Please see page 6 for details on how to play as a farmer. Okay. So this is a very minor thing, but when you say please see page 6, I feel like I have to do that right now. Again, like preheat the oven to 375. I need to do that right now. Whereas if you said um details of farmer, whatever goals are explained more on page 6, it's like, okay, they exist there, but you're not telling me to literally go there right now and interrupt what I'm reading. It's kind of like a very subtle difference between the two of them. Okay.
Well, something else to think about. On the section, the header says "playing as farmers." I see the goals, and then it's referring me to somewhere else how to play as a farmer. I feel like if I go to the section that says "playing as farmers," I should learn how to play as farmers in this section. Is there any way to join these two things together, or otherwise avoid having to? Um, One suggestion could be, um, I don't know if the 2-column format would work here, but one column would be the playing as farmers, one column would be the playing as foxes section. Um, but anything that could be done to keep those two things together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is also kind of restating um the objectives up here. This is kind of like a better restating of the object of the game, so maybe it could be a slightly longer object of the game that's maybe not quite this detailed, but enough that it wasn't leaving you with unanswered questions up here. So it's kind of like the goal of the foxes, the goal farmer objective, fox objective. And then the next section we could talk about how to play as a fox or as a farmer. All right. Anybody else want to weigh in before I move on to the next page? I'm also curious how much longer we have to go. Okay, so we're going to play, how to play, and then game end. Excellent. Okay, how to play as a fox. You move on the squares on the board. Okay. I think secretly, hidden movement, right? This is where hidden movement comes in. Each square has a coordinate, e.g. den in A1 or empty square in B5. Okay, that makes sense. All squares that touch a target square. What's a target square? Are adjacent. That's a target square. This also means squares that are diagonal to your current square are adjacent to you. So your current square where you currently are, again, like this is bothering me, this should be a little meeple, and these should look like cubes. So, you're explaining adjacency. I think you're introducing another term too. I have my current square and I have my target square, which is like the square I'm going to, the square I'm traveling to, maybe. You may enter a square that contains another fox. Okay. You can't enter. Okay. I might do this like you're going to move on the squares on the board, and then you can say, you can move with a big green check mark to these places. You can't move with a big red X to these places, and that might be like a column thing. Like you can move into something that contains a fox, but you can't move into one that contains a farmer or a farm animal. You can move through, let's see what it would be, through wheat and grass, but you can't move through buildings, forests, or water. And again, like these, you're sort of starting to hint at these. This is where I would employ that big green check mark and that big red X. Maybe have a little fox with an arrow and saying, yes, you can go here, but no, you can't go there. Does that make sense? I could doodle that up, but I think maybe you can envision it. So I'm thinking like a little fox with an arrow and then like check mark, bloop, 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 and then X, bloop, bloop, bloop. So you can't go here, but you can go here. Almost like a little sign. You know, like pedestrian crossing, fox crossing. Here's what you can do. So yeah, you can move. Here's where you can and can't move, like movement rules. Your movements are hidden. Again, I would put that up front because that's the key part of the game. Your movements are hidden. Or your movements will be hidden? Okay, foxes do not have meeples on the shared board, and thus move invisibly. Foxes do not have meeples. Okay, so this might be, again, like moving back up to the top. Like meeples, you're going to move on the board with, or I mean, farmers, you're going to move on the board using a meeple. Foxes, you're going to move on the board in secret, and you're going to use the fox tracker to track your movement. Something like that. You track your movement on the fox tracker card. Because this is kind of like still getting me oriented to how the game works, but I feel like by now we should be talking about, here, on your turn, do this, that, and the other thing, but I'm still getting overview. You can, I would say you can only move if your action card allows it. See, now we're saying action card. I like that. If your action card allows it. Only the sneak and run cards allow you to move. Try to end in a safe spot when you play your last movement card. I feel like that's a strategy tip and not like an instruction, so I might put that like in a side or say hint. Only sneak and runs. So I'm not sure I'm going to be playing cards, I imagine. Maybe I'm going to be getting to this in a bit. Okay, your movements are hidden. So it's kind of like overview. I would say your movements are hidden is probably more important. You're going to be moving on the squares in the grid. It's going to be hidden. You're going to use your tracker to track it. You can go here, you can't go here. And you can only move if your action cards allow it. Almost seems like it has to do with movement. Yeah, we'll take a look at this section and see if it's all in the right spot. But let's go on and see what else is in this section. Overview of your turn. I would just say, on your turn. On your turn, do the following. Do all of the following? Are they all mandatory? Do I have to do them in order? That would be my question I'm thinking right now. May eat an adjacent farm animal. Okay, if I'm not adjacent to one, I probably can't do that. Play an action card. Okay. Scare the nearest farm animal. Ooh, scaring a farm animal. That's a new concept. Check your win condition. That's another gamey way to say it. But I see, like, if you've made it to your den for the last time, you've won. That might not even necessarily be here. I think you could just put it under game and condition. It seems like upkeep. So you eat if you can, you play an action card, and then I assume move or do whatever the action card says, and then you can scare the nearest farm animal. I bet this is where the animal noises are coming in. Okay, I'm excited about that part. Okay, may eat an adjacent farm animal. If a farm animal, I think we just called them animals before, animal cubes, is adjacent to you, you may eat it. If you eat, do the following. If you are not on tall grass, oh, those are called tall grass. I would introduce that. You might even give a little orientation to the board up front. It says like, this is a building, this is the forest, this is the water, this is the blah blah blah. That would be nice. If you're not in tall grass, request the farmer to peek at their bait trap. If there is one, if it matches the animal you just ate, they trigger the trap by carrying out its effect. Another gamey term. Carry out its effect. Okay, if you are... So, maybe you might want to say, if you are in this, that, or the other space, you automatically eat the animal. Because I think that's what happens. If you are in the tall grass, though, alert, ask the farmer to make sure there's not a trap there. And that might be all you have to say here, because the farmer's going to take care of the rest of it. If this is your third eaten animal, shuffle the unused dens and draw a new den. This is where you need to go. Never show this to the farmers. Okay, so I would just say, secretly draw a new den. Do not show it to the farmers. This is where you need to go in order to win the game, basically. Foxes can never share the same dens. Okay, so I would say shuffle the unused dens and draw a new den. Make sure it's not the same as the other one. See, I wonder why. It seems like you should have to pull that. So you can't have the same ending den? Is that what you're saying? You can't be both going to the same place? I can't hear you, Ahmed. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Yes, correct.
Okay. I'm also like noticing that there's a lot of things that come into play when you have two foxes, but if I'm only playing as one fox, I could ignore things, and I'm starting to wonder if some of these things could be marked as like, this isn't important if you're just one fox. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I'm looking at 1B2 2, foxes can never share the same dens. So, in order for me to know, so first I've drawn the new den. This is where I need to go. So I know where this is, but I can't share the same den. So if I'm just thinking there might need to be a sentence here that says, um, if a well, how would you know that another fox is already there?
So you can't share, you can't be on the same den at the same
The tracker?
location, or you can't share the same goal den. I'm not sure what that sharing the same dens actually means.
Um,
Help us,
so
Ahmed.
basically, I mean,
Ahmed.
there's only. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
So yeah, there are only 4 different corners, and if you once you get one, then the other fox cannot get that one effectively. It's probably just stating the obvious because once you get the new den, you keep it.
Okay. All right. So there's never a chance where I would collect a card that is directing me to the same space as another place already is.
Correct.
All right. Cool.
Okay, because they're already holding on to that card?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling like this whole den thing is raising questions in my mind, and I wonder if that could be consolidated or somehow addressed up front. Okay, you may still eat additional animals, but you can't change your den anymore. Change your den. I didn't know I could I didn't have a thought that I could change my den. It's just kind of like it is what it is. So you may still eat animals. Okay, so at this point, my main goal is to get to my den. I can still eat animals, but really I'm trying to get to my den. I'm wondering right now, if I eat more animals, will I get more points? Is that going to help me win? I'm not sure. Okay, and lastly, gain all your discarded animals. Or actions. Okay. Also, does A, B, and C seem like a multiple choice, but these aren't mutually exclusive. I feel like they could be bullet points. Okay, so if you and it's like not if a farm animal is adjacent to you. If you are next to a farm animal, eat it. If you're on these spaces, you can eat it. If you're in tall grass, you got to check with the farmer first. Make sure there's not a trap. If there is, this happens or see whatever. If there isn't, you eat it. If this is your third animal, you're gonna draw a doodad and try to get home. Cool. And then you're going to gain all your discarded actions. Like, you're going to be able to use those actions, or are you picking up your cards again? I'm not sure. And that seems like something would happen at the end of your turn. Is this what that means? Pick up all your cards, Ahmed?
Yeah. So only when you eat a farm animal, then you'll gain all the cards that you've spent.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I think I definitely need like an if then. If you eat a farm, if you do this, or if you do this, you eat a farm animal. If you do eat a farm animal, you gain all your actions back. Okay. Play an action. Like an action card. You could just say play a card. I think those are the only cards you have. Let's see. Do the following in order. Okay. Carry out the full effect of an action. That is definitely a gamer way to say it. Carry out the full effect of an action. I'm guessing we're saying play a card and do what it says. Remember that you can't enter. Okay, play a card and do what it says is probably what I would say in an 8+ game. Remember that you can't enter squares containing another farmer, farm animals, buildings, or forests, blah, 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 blah. You may enter another fox's square. Okay, so that's a reminder. I might italicize that or just reinforce it earlier with that sort of graphic. Okay, carry out the full effect of the action. Discard the played action. Carry out the full effect of action. I feel like it should be like, I'm putting a card down, then I do the thing, and maybe I need an example here. And that is kind of discarding it, I think. Can't be used until they returned to your hand. So return to your hand, and up here it says gained. So it's kind of like take all your played cards back. Okay, your action cards and discard pile are not shared with any other fox. Again, like up top, what are we sharing? What is my own? And does this matter if I'm just playing as one fox? Anyone may review your action discard pile, which is always kept face up. Record your current square's coordinates on the fox tracker. Okay, so in layman's terms, what am I doing? I'm going to play a card. I'm going to do what it says, which might be moving and putting a new action down, and I'm just going to put that in front of me. That's all I'm really doing, right? That seems pretty simple compared to reading the instructions that we just red. So I would, again, like, go back to CJ and run and see if you can just say,
Okay.
play a card, do what it says. For example, see blah, 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 and make sure to update your Fox tracker. Something like that. If you have no actions, gain all your actions instead. I would say pick up all your cards instead of playing any actions. Okay. And I would say action cards. Okay. Running through fences. When you play a run, what am I? See, here's where I'm like thinking back. Like, what are my? If I was in person, I'd be like, what are these actions that I have? Sneak, run, and stalk. Okay, so I want to know what each of these things does. I think some of them let me move. Sneak and run let me move, and I don't know what stalk is. Probably something with animals. Let's take a look. Running through fences. Sneak, move. Sneak, run, and stalk, right? Okay, so running through fences. When you play a run action, you can't enter a fence. In addition, you can't... See, here's where I want to know what I can do. In addition, you can't enter a diagonal square that's blocked by two fences, such as a gray square as shown in the left image. Oof. You can't enter a diagonal square that's blocked by two fences, such as the gray square shown in the left image. So we can't go here. Okay. Yeah, here's where I want... There's only 3 actions, right? So maybe even just say, run, sneak, stalk. Running means... What does it mean? Does it mean just moving? Is this essentially sort of like a play and move? I wish I had one of those cards in front of me right now. Fox action, stalk. Place up to 2 new animals. Yeah, I almost want just like show me the cards and tell me what they do in plain English, because then I can go back and reference them. So maybe that's coming. We'll see. But that's what I'm craving here is like when I run, it just means I'm moving. When I'm stalking, what does that mean? I don't know. And running through fences would be under sort of run. So yeah, I would explain there are 3 actions. You can see them more in the fiddly bits on page whatever. Okay. Scare the nearest farm animal. Okay, so I'm going to eat. I'm going to play a card. Yeah, so say eat, play a card. Scare. Scare the nearest farm animal. I might even play, eat, scare. Yeah, play, what was it? Eat, play, scare. EPS. Okay, scare the nearest farm animal. If you could just shorten those into like one verb, that's going to make a reference card easier, make everything easier. Make the noise of the farm animal that is nearest to you. Okay, this is fun. I want to see like a little word bubble that says moo, cluck, cluck, whatever, over here. Check your distance and choices. Distance is measured in squares, counting diagonals first. If you're at equal distance to multiple farm animals, choose one. After making that animal noise, okay, then make the noise. I feel like I need 1, 2, 3. Request the farmer to peek at their noise trap if there is one. If it matches the animal noise you just made, they trigger the trap by carrying out its effect. Ooh, okay, so when an animal is in the same row or column, so I have a fox. I'm going to see which animal is closest to me, and I'm going to make the noise. Then the farmer's going to check if the trap goes off for that noise. Is that what it means? Okay. When an animal is in the same row, count the squares until you reach 1, 2, 3. Okay, that makes sense. When an animal is not in the same row or column as you, count diagonal squares until it reaches your row or column, whichever is first, then count the... Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 1... What? 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's going
Question.
backwards. 3, 2, 1. I don't
Yeah.
like that. I think I would go from
Well,
fox to cube.
question. How does this matter? Would it be easier to say just go the shortest distance you can? Why do I need to do
Um,
diagonals first, then orthogonal?
I mean, I guess it's more. I was breaking it down if you needed to calculate it, but um, it really doesn't matter in that sense. I might have
Yeah,
just made it broken down a bit and sounds a bit more complicated than what it is.
I think you hit
Okay.
the nail on the
Yeah.
head there. Yeah, because here I would just count 1, 2, 3. That's how I would go to that sheep. 1, 2, 3. And I would put the fox
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2. And if you're talking about pick the one that's closer, you could just give one example with a fox and a duck and a whatever they are, chickens. Duck and a chicken, and just say, in this instance, you're closer to the duck, so you're gonna say cluck, 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 or cock-a-doodle-doo, or whatever it is that you're gonna say. Yeah, I think this is too... I'm more interested in what these look like as a fiddly bit than I am in exactly how to count squares. I think most people can count squares. I see what you're saying, like it could be tricky to do it. I would just see if you took that out, if it really causes any problems in playtesting. Because I have a feeling they could probably figure it out. If all foxes are at their respective new dens, your team wins. Yeah, I wouldn't put this as part of the step. I would just make that the end condition. I know, like in computer language, like if you were coding this, you would say, okay, check for the win condition. It's not there. Okay, now go back and repeat. But as players, I don't think we tend to think that way. I would just skip over it. Plus, it gives you that nice magical, like 1, 2, 3. Eat stuff, play a card, scare an animal. Like, make a noise. That's the 8-year-old version of this, I think, right? Eat, play a card, scare. Anybody else have comments about the how to play the fox? Hey, Katie.
I think it would be helpful for I think it'd be helpful for to add more like examples for like if you scroll down a little bit here, a little bit more. I think it was on the next page, but when it was a little bit up, sorry. So like kind of what Ahmed has right here with running through fences, I think it would be helpful to have that for the like take an action or draw an action. And then you could see like what component you're doing, I guess, as the action. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like I'm obviously if I had the game in front of me, I could look at those cards and see what they are, but right now in my head I'm holding like I don't know what those action cards say. Like I would really like an example so I feel confident like I know what run means.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
This is Craig. I had a
Hey,
little
Craig.
bit of feedback overall, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, great. This is my first time at one of these, and it's been really insightful to watch you guys read through this in a format like this. So thanks for letting me be on this. One of the things that I kind of going through this entire call here, I had the promise was this really playful game at the very beginning. And as we're reading through the instructions, it feels, and I apologize up front if I'm an analogy person, it feels like I'm working my way through some turducken onion versus eating an apple. Like there's a heading and then a subheading and then 3 subheadings each of those, and I think that's really great for organizational purposes, but
Yeah.
it's like play an action, do the following, and then everything is so splintered and broken apart
Yeah.
as you go through this, where I think that this could actually be a third of the text and still get across the same topic. Like, and it's the promise of battleship, but with making noise animal noises. I'm like, that sounds like, and I don't want to sound as a bad constructive criticism, but I feel like the fun promise of making noises is a disconnect for me with the density of a 20-minute read as I go through this. So I don't know if that means maybe remove or merging a mechanic or merging the rule book. But it definitely feels like Battleship is like set up these 5 ships. You're not going to see them. Pick one, and your objective is to destroy the ships. So it feels like the theme of this and the promise of a fun making noises and scary animals. Um, this is really dense for a lightweight player for me. And as a new designer, I was hanging around with a lot of like designer people. And then I took what I thought was a real fun hopscotch game to a bar, and I told them one rule and they lost their mind. So it feels to me like definitely I agree on the gamer terminology and some of the things that are in here. There just seems like double the amount of words and double or triple the amount of subheadings. And I think if you could just merge all that together, and then of course the icons will add something, but I'm having a really hard time following this, and maybe I haven't had enough coffee, but I'm really getting confused, like jumping around and reference this and resolve this. Definitely, if this is for if I was playing this with my nieces, I would definitely want to have a much more teachable, less dense thing. So that's just my take for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Greg. I mean, the truth is, it was actually only 3 pages previously, but it went through a recent rulebook review, and there were just lots of questions from the reviewer about they didn't understand this and that. And actioning on those, I started expanding the details, but I think it probably went the other way too far now in terms of, there's just too many things, it's all over the place. So, but I take your point. Yeah, it doesn't match the promise of the game at the start in terms of how dense it is now in trying to convey exhaustively the whole rule. So I'll need to figure out how to shorten that.
Yeah, so I think you
Yeah,
have
maybe
everything. Yeah, now
I
it's
mean
just
this
trimming
may
it down.
yeah, that maybe this sounds a little silly, but read some IKEA books and just like it's instructions on IKEA and just the visual translation of that. And how do I make these words? And I'm not saying everything needs to go to icons, but I would definitely start simple and add more, versus trying to parse all this out and make it simpler. Like, what is the easiest way that you could convey this game in 2 paragraphs, and then add on those paragraphs and add verses like I think it'd be hard to go the other way from what you have here, for what it's worth. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like that inverted pyramid. Like in journalism, they always say it's like you get the who, what, when, where, why out, and then you drill down. It should almost be like the way we read a rule book. A rule book. You almost shouldn't have to read the whole rule book. You should be able to read most of it and kind of get there, and then read a little bit more and start playing, and then read a little bit more when you run into something you don't understand. Not that people actually read rule books that way, but some of them do. It's like, yeah, let's just jump in. We'll figure it out. That happens sometimes. One example that I wanted to give you is a game called Shifty Eyed Spies. I wish I could find the rulebook. I can't find the rulebook. But the rulebook is this style where they actually have comics that sort of show what you're doing in the game. Not that you would prepare this, it would be like a publisher job, but this is what I'm envisioning the end product would look like. It like shows fun, and it's like, you're gonna do this. You don't know where your fox is, but you're gonna be making these fun noises. Like, that's the spirit of what I'm hoping your rulebook would become, is something that's much more visual and much more um sort of fun, and you open the rulebook and you can see how to play more than read the technical manual of how to play. Does that make sense?
Fair enough.
I'm sure there are other if anybody else has other ideas about similar rules, similar games of this weight that feel this way, that would be cool to have those examples too. All right, let's move on to farmers. How to play as a farmer. Farmer movement rules. You move on the squares on the board. So this might be good for that split screen that Chris was talking about. You move on the squares on the board. Each square has a coordinate. Well, we already know that. We introduced that right up front. All squares that touch are adjacent. Yeah, we already know that. Get that up front. You can only move from your current square to an adjacent square. Okay, cool. So, yeah, kind of like split screening that up front. There are squares on the board. They all have coordinates. This is what adjacency means. Foxes are going to move by playing action cards. Farmers are just going to move to adjacent. They walk slower than a fox and they get to move their meeple. Excuse me. Okay, you can't enter these squares. Squares containing another farmer or a farm animal. Squares that show buildings, forest, or water. So again, I would have like a little farmer walking and an arrow and say bloop, bloop, bloop. These are the ones you can go into. And then bloop, bloop, bloop with a big red X. These are the ones you can't go into. Show me instead of telling me. Your movements are visible. Again, like going back, like the farmer's going to be visible. The foxes are going to be invisible. You can only move if your action card allows it. Oh, I have action cards too. Okay. Only the small fences, big fences, and collect animal cards allow you to move. Inspect buildings allows you to relocate your meeple to a different square, but does not count as a move. Again, so now we have, what do we have? Four options. So maybe just bloop, 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 picture them and say, this lets you move. These ones let you move. This one allows you to do something else. Yeah, so a lot of this is recap that we already read. So see if you can consolidate that, sort of like explain the game, and then split off like foxes, here's what's different for you. Farmers, here's what's different for you. But we don't have to tell each one individually, unless your goal is to like have a sheet that the foxes read and a sheet that the farmers read. Almost like if you would play Betrayal, how like the trader gets their own rulebook. But I don't think of this way to game that's the right way to do it. Maybe you have a reference card for each one. But basic stuff like there are squares, they have coordinates. This is what adjacent means, I think is really, should be up higher. Okay, overview of your turn. Okay, on your turn as a farmer, do the following. Play in action. Is it just one step? Sorry. So we have a numbered list with a 1. Okay, so we're just, on your turn, you're just going to play in action. That's what I would say. Do the following in order. Carry out the full effect of the action. Stop saying that. Okay. Remember that you can't enter squares. Okay, we already said that. Discard the played action. Discard action. Okay, so on your turn, play a card and do what it says. If all your cards are gone, pick them up. Is that what the turn is, Ahmed?
Yes.
Yay! Okay, on your turn, play a card. Do what it says. If you don't have any cards left, pick them up. And then, yes, okay. Here are the 4 cards. Here's what they do. Okay, whenever you play the small fences or big fences actions and move at least 1 square. First, fence the square you plan to enter by crossing them out. Do this even if you previously crossed out those squares. Remember that there are certain squares you can't enter. Then pick up and place your meeple on your final square. Finally, check with each fox to confirm if they are in any squares you just crossed out. Whew, okay, so I'm playing small fences. I'm presuming that I have a meeple on the board. I'm going to move it to a new place. And do I leave like fences in my path? And
Yeah.
then if I touch a fox, the fox has to say, "Oh," they have to say, "Yip yip 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 you," or whatever fox says.
Yeah.
Ouch! You stepped on my tail, something like that. And if you did, or you entrap the fox, you cross out the thingy, right?
Yeah. The I guess the main challenge with this one is the fox can't say yes until you've done your full move. So the idea is that you could have moved 3 squares and then the fox could be in any one of those if you did hit one, rather than, oh, I knew exactly that was the square that I hit you, for example.
Okay. And what's the difference between small fences and big fences? Is there a number attached to these, like a movement number?
Yes, yes.
What is the movement number?
The small fences move 3 and big fences move 4.
Okay. I might put like a little footprint with like number 3 on it or something, or a footprint with a 4. And then however many fences I get to draw, or whatever. Something that makes it easier to understand. It's probably all written out, I imagine, if I go back. But again, for like an 8+ game, if you can just look at it and intuitively know, fence up to 3 adjacent tiles. Reposition to the final tile. And then just like move up to 3 spaces and leave fences. And you may set a trap. Okay, yeah, I would put like a footstep with a 3, like a fence with a, up to 3, something like that. And the trap. And then maybe there's like a thing at the end that says when you see a trap icon, this is what you do. Yeah, I think that could be like reposition to the final tile. I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. Just move 3 spaces, right? That's what we're doing. So
Yeah. Move
your rules
to
are
your left is
comprehensive, but
forward
they're
and then
so
your right
big. And now we're just gonna chop that. Right, you're not done editing when you can't add anymore. You're done editing when you can't take any more out. Is really, I guess, the theme of it. Okay, let's go back to farmers. So, small fences. So we're gonna do a combination of taking footsteps, putting up fences, maybe setting a trap. And hello, Patrick. Welcome to the club. We're talking about rulebooks. Hello. We're looking at Ahmed's rules for Farmhouse Frenzy, and there's a little stream you can watch if you know how to do that on Discord. Okay, movement and fencing example. So we're doing, okay, I thought these were going to be 2 different things. So you're explaining what it does, now you're giving me an example. If this is something different, if this is an example, maybe like make it a different color, gray or something like that, so I know it's an example, because then I can skip over it. So we talked about this in Katie's game too, right? She had sort of some areas of her rulebook that were gray and some were white, and it was sort of arbitrary, but she went through and like, now all the examples are one color, so you can sort of read what you're trying to do, and then you see an example, say, oh, I get it, and then you can keep moving on. But if you get it, you can kind of skip over the example anyway. In the left image, you want to move to the bottom right square. Again, I want this to be a meeple, because that's a meeple. to the bottom right square and have decided to go below the forest as you can't go through it. Can't go around it, can't go through it. You cross out those squares before placing your meeple on the final square. Then you ask the foxes if they are on any of the squares. They must truthfully answer, but without specifying which square. One fox says yes, so you cross off one fox health on the board. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That makes sense. I think it could probably be cleaner, but I understand it. Setting traps. Remember that traps and their slots are shared between farmers. I think we remember that. Noise trap. Is a noise trap different than other traps? Or is there just one trap spot? How does that work, Ahmed?
There's a noise trap and a bait trap. So bait is when it gets eaten, and noise is the noise that the fox makes.
I'm not sure I understand that.
So basically, the farmers have one card, 4 cards. Each of them will represent a certain animal. So the sheep, the cow, the duck, and the chicken. And then they can place it to one of 2 spots, either as a bait trap or a noise trap. And
Okay.
each trap will trigger differently, so there's a different conditions. The noise trap is when the fox makes a noise, then you check that trap. If it matches the noise, it activates. And for the bait trap,
Okay.
if the fox eats it, then you do the same check, and if it activates, you trigger the card.
Okay, I see. So in that last phase of the fox phase, when they say moo, if the noise trap is there, the farmer gets to flip it over and say, haha, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. See, when I thought there was only one slot, so if there's more than one slot, that might be worth orienting us to as players early in the game. Each trap matches one of the 4 animals and is only triggered during the fox's turn. You may peek and set traps anytime. The farmer may peek at set traps anytime. There are 2 types of tree. Okay, bait trap. Peek at this trap whenever a fox eats any animal at the start of their turn. Trigger this trap if the fox eats the animal matching the trap. This is a then if statement. I would make it an if then statement. If the fox eats the animal matching the trap, then cross out the next uncross, just mark off 1 health. Paren, if you cross off the last one, you win. That fox must discard 1 action if they have any. Is that something that happens every time the fox health goes down?
Only if they activate this trap.
Okay, gotcha. And discard the trap. Okay, so I can kind of remember, if I'm the fox, I can remember maybe which traps have been played. Is that right?
Sorry, correct.
Okay. Noise trap. Peek at this trap whenever a fox makes any animal noise at the end of the turn. And I can peek at each trap at any time. Okay. Any noise at the end of the turn. While peeking, trigger this trap if the fox makes an animal noise matching the trap. Cross out the next and if you cross out the last one, your team wins. So again, we have like repetition here. Discard the trap. Okay, so there's 2 types of traps. If they eat the animal matching the bait trap, or they make the noise of the animal matching the noise trap, their health moves down and they lose a card. Is that right? Okay. Let's say it more like that.
Yeah.
And here might be a good strategy tip. Like the foxes, if you can be clever, be a clever fox. Like remember what traps have already been set off. Something like that. Okay. The game ends immediately when a team's winning condition is triggered. For ages 8+, I would say, if all the foxes ate 3 animals and made it home to their new den, they win. If any of the foxes' health gets crossed off, the farmer wins. I would just say it here, because it takes 2 sentences to do it, right? Don't make me skim back to find it again. Okay, cool. So, thinking back, and this is an open question for the floor, we've made it through the rulebook. Do we feel like we could play this game from the rulebook? Do we know what everything is? Do we know how to set it up? Do we understand the asymmetrical roles of the farmer and the fox? Do we know how action cards work? Do we know what we're doing on our turn? And do we know what our goal is? And do we know when we win? I think for me, to Katie's point, like I get how the game works. I think I could play it, but I'm definitely craving. I want to see what those action cards are because there's only 3 for the fox and there's only 4 for the farmer, and the farmer ones sound like they're fairly similar. I want to see what they actually are and understand them. That's the one thing I'm definitely missing, and then maybe an example or two, and then just cutting down a lot of this stuff like here. Play a card, do what it says.
That makes sense.
Play a card, do what it says. Yeah. And you could even like oops, should I wave? Playing into sort of the playfulness of this game too. You might even have like one page that's like has a big farmer on it. It's like, here's what you need to know about being a farmer. And here's the stuff. And another one has a big fox on it, and then you could start the game by saying, you have a grid. There are coordinates on the grid. The fox is going to move in secret. The farmer, blah, 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 blah. So that intro stuff, and then just see the farmer page for more about this, or see the fox page instead of like having to be like, open your books to page, 27. You can just be like, oh, I need something to know something about the fox. What was that thing? Oh, just find that one page in the rule book that has the big fox on it, and all the stuff is going to be there. Yeah. Cool. What other feedback do people have? Is anybody there?
I mean, I think Chris and you, Emily, pretty much nailed the head on everything that I was thinking. I'm a very visual person, so having more examples would be helpful. I do think I could play the game. It just might take me a little bit longer than I have patience for. um,
Yeah.
but I definitely understand the mechanics of it and all that. It just might take me a little while to completely see what I'm looking at. But it sounds like a really fun game.
Actually, I think what my takeaway from this is that just looking back at the feedback from the previous reviewer, I think their issue was that was probably the text was not detailed enough, but I think what they didn't say was that it should just have more visuals. So I went the way of putting in more text. So really, what I should be doing is revert it back to where it was, but focus even more on highlighting the concepts through visuals and instead of adding more text.
Yeah, like this, I'm looking at this, like all this could be consolidated. All squares that touch a target square are adjacent. That also means blah, 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 blah. You could just do, oops, what is this? Oops. Do this on the fly. I would say, I wish there was a meeple shape. There's not a meeple shape, but let's just do this. Let's make it purple. Okay, I would just do something like this. Bloop. Make sense?
A plus.
Yeah, so we can just say in one sentence, like, when you move one space, you can move in any direction. And then show it. And then when you're thinking about that later, you just turn to that page and bloop, there it is right now. Yeah, hopefully that's a little meeple. Or a fox or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, like, those squares that said, like, okay, you can move through water, you can't move through whatever it is, grass, buildings, whatever. And then you can have your, do they have an X? Is there an X? Give me an X. X. There we go. So you can have your, like, you can't move into here, you can't move into here. But you can move into whatever checkbox. I don't know if they have a checky thingy. Yeah. And then you have your green. Yeah, stuff like that I think would be super, super intuitive.
Yeah.
Again, like if it's an 8+ game an 8+ game is really something that, okay, your parents can teach the kid, but then the kid can open the rule book, glance through the illustrations. The setup should be like, make my board look like that board. I can move like this. Here's where I can go, stop sign, or check mark. Here's where I can't go, stop sign. That sort of stuff, I think. And you have it all there, which is the nice thing. So you can go through and search this and just say, how can I insert it so it looks like this? And you can just do that. Oh, I have an edit permission. No, I'm just suggesting. But you can go to insert drawing like this, and that'll open up a Google drawing that you can just do this, and then you hit save and close, and it just pops it right in there. And then you can kind of test that with people, and if something's not clear, or like, oh, I wish this, I can't quite see this, then you can easily change it around as you're going. Yeah, and I think a big thing for me is I kept having to retell my brain that this little thing that looks like a square punchboard token is a
Right.
meeple. And these things that look like square punchboard tokens are actually cubes with those things on them. So I might just replace those as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you're gonna bring this game to our Sunday night, short and sweet, or maybe we can find another time we should play this on the small free games server, because we're not gonna play games about small free animals. Like, why are we even here?
I know, right? Oh, yeah, definitely. I do want to bring it one of these days to the sessions. Hopefully, not this immediate one, but the next one potentially, or the one after that. But yeah, definitely keen to just to play test and feedback either way.
Cool. Anybody have last minute thoughts
How many
before I
play
stop the
tests have you
recording?
done, Ahmad?
I'll go for it.
Sorry,
I was going to ask, how many play tests are you done, Ahmad, at this point?
Um, I haven't, I guess, personally counted with how many people I've played, maybe roughly, but I mean, I've made 50 changes, and each one roughly, I guess I've played with people, although it's usually the same people. So I don't know, probably I would say 20 plus 25 if you're really more specific.
I might be making this up because I haven't done this a lot myself, but just one idea that might help that came to mind was maybe have you recorded yourself teaching this to other people and then maybe go back and also have you timed yourself teaching this? So maybe one thing that could be a nice exercise to get you out of the rule book if you feel like you're stuck in the rule book, and making these changes and iterations, maybe blow it up and challenge yourself to make, like, how do I teach this in 5 minutes, either record it in audio or record it in video. And then I would personally like to see that. Like, if you were to send that to
Right.
me, then I could actually say, okay, can you teach it in 3 minutes, can you teach it in 5 minutes, and then what and then ask people, if you show people that, even if you're not play testing that with them, it feels like you really probably have a really great game and experience of the game here, but it feels like what you might be missing is just, how do I condense that? So maybe challenge yourself, or just get your phone out and record yourself with a text to speech, and just talk for 5 minutes and see how far you can get in the game, and then actually parse out those key terms and find where you are tripping yourself up, or then expand, ask people like, okay, if you've watched my 5-minute video, what are the 3 or 5 things that are confusing to you? And then you can kind of grow from there. But if your head's down in the weeds of creating this rule book at this point, that might be something that would be a refreshing thing, or a refreshing experience for you to try, to get to that nice, concise 8+ playability. I don't know if that
Right.
helps, but that was just kind of shooting from the hip as an idea.
That's a really good point. Because funnily enough, when I was playtesting this last year, I mean, it took me less than 5 minutes to explain the rules. I didn't have the rule book back then, so it was just basically just the details, like the most key details, and everything else was, fairly straightforward in terms of, as you play the game, you could understand intuitively, like adjacency and stuff like that, what it means. I think you're right. It's when I started writing the rule book that I started trying to break things down, and yeah, it's a different experience when you're writing versus when you're telling it. So
Yep.
that's a really good point. I definitely want to record myself again and see what I am saying and basically just translate that back to here in that short condensed form. Because I'm
Yeah,
definitely not telling
sometimes when I
everything.
do sometimes when I do a play test, I just get everybody's permission and do a text to speech. And sometimes they say key phrases that I would have never thought about. And then when I launch a game, maybe in the future here, those are those key phrases that I hope to put into the rule book, put into the games. Because when you're inside your own head, I definitely can relate to that it's hard to kind of come up with the text. But when I'm forced to do a quick comment on social media or talking to someone, things just kind of flow out a little better, or at least in from a different part of my brain. So maybe that would help you just kind of in the moment. Okay, I have a 5-minute timer. How can I teach this game, and what am I learning that I need and don't need? Maybe.
Yeah, no, good point. Thank you for that.
The other thing I would suggest is teach someone your game, then have them teach the game to somebody else and watch them, because you will see that the things that you communicated most clearly or the things that are most intuitive are the things that they're going to remember, and the fiddly bits that are easy to forget are either not explained in your rule book very well, or maybe they're not intuitive. And that's the kind of thing, like when I'm working on rule books, sometimes when you need like 2 paragraphs to explain something, and it's like this exception that happens 10% of the time, you talk to the designer, you're like, is this really adding fun to the game? If intuitively
Mm.
people don't want to do this, why is it here? Is it because otherwise it would be broken, or is it just kind of like a remnant from something in an earlier design too? So there may be things also um, that you don't need, and you may also find like how a player aid might be helpful too. If you have cards in this game, if you just had a fox card and it had those different types of terrain with your X's and your check marks in it. Oh, where can I move? Boop. You just eliminated 8 times in the rulebook where you said you can move
Yeah.
here, but you can't move here. It's just like look at your
Okay.
card, make sure you're not going into places you can't go to.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I was
Something that
gonna.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Sorry, I was gonna say something about the player aids. Like some of this could be offloaded there, and I think it might be interesting. Uh, Maybe this is off the rails, but Emily's idea of having the like farmer section and the fox section. I wonder if it might be useful to have those separate from the rulebook almost, so the farmer team can just be like looking at their farmer page and they know exactly how all their specific rules go from there. And the Fox team can be looking at the Fox page, like during the game. Because something that happens sometimes in asynchronous or asymmetric games is like people don't really understand how their role works, but they don't want to like give away strategy to ask questions about how their role works. So if they have independent things that they can look at, that might be.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
something has helped me is was recommended to me by the last short and sweet playtest, I think. Chris was saying that to make a script when you teach the game, and that writing that script down, I was able to see what wasn't being translated the way that I needed it to when players would ask questions. And then that script helped me mold my rule book a little bit too, to kind of get the flow a little bit better during it.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We can stay around and hang out in the treehouse for a while if y'all want, but I'm going to wrap up the recording and say thanks for everybody for being here and for contributing. Thank you to Ahmed for sharing your rulebook and being vulnerable so we can all learn from it. And check out Short and Sweet Playtesting on the Small Fry Games server on Sunday nights. Eastern time. Check out the rulebooks on Saturday mornings that we're doing. Join the community. There's lots of ways to get feedback on your things. We all want to see these little games grow. And yeah, this is awesome. Thanks so much. I am going to post this on YouTube. If everybody's okay with that, just give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you all next week.
Cool. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everybody.